Hello and welcome to another Wiz tutorial. In today's video, we're gonna learn how to handle invisibility. Alright, now what does that mean? Well, we have initial states in our app. For example, in this case with our link shortener, I don't want to display this wrapper over here by default. I want this to be hidden, and first I want to display this once a request has been fully loaded. So how do I do that? Well, I have two options. First of all, I can hide the element initially, which creates a layout shift and we don't really want that, or I can just reduce the opacity to 0 originally and then use Wiz to change the opacity. Well, that's how it was until now, but now we released a feature that allows you to use an invisibility cloak, like this one. So recently, we released the wized-cloak attribute. And the way this works is you simply add a custom attribute here and you write wized-cloak, and then you write the name of the request for which you want to wait before you display the element. In this case, it's called post link. And you have to make sure that the spelling is exactly the same as you have in your Wizd app. And here we have the request. And what this will do now is it will hide this element until our post link request is loaded. But it will not set the display property to none. It will just set the opacity to 0. So it will just make the element invisible. We can see if we refresh the page that the element is initially hidden, but we still have a little bit of blinking here. So let's learn how to eliminate that completely. This is where the wized-cloak-custom attribute comes in. And wized-cloak-custom gives us superpowers. It allows us not only to hide the element, but also to add any other CSS properties that we want in our original state. So let's learn how to use that. Here, we're going to change this to wized-cloak-custom. And now what I can do is take this current state, I leave it as is, but I'm going to customize it and create my initial state here. So I'm going to set the opacity to 0, but I'm going to do that in a little bit. Then I'm going to change this transform property. I'm going to move this element a little bit lower. In this case, I want to move it for 40 pixels. And originally the opacity will be 0. Then I'll also add a transition. In this case, I'll choose all properties, since we're animating two properties. And here, I'm going to choose ease out cubic. All right, and let's say I'm happy with my initial state. So I'm going to take the CSS that's generated. I'm going to copy it to clipboard. And I'm going to reset those properties. So I'm going to set the opacity to 100. And I'm going to set this value to 0. Perfect. Now, I'm going to take the CSS that I just copied and I'm going to add some custom code globally. So I'm going to go to Project Settings, Custom Code, and I'll paste this in here. Now here, I don't need almost any of these properties. I only need the opacity property and the transform properties, because these are the two properties that I'm animating. So I'll delete all of the rest. And I'll delete this second class as well, for the smaller breaking point. And now I'm going to delete this class, and instead I'm going to target the attribute that we added earlier, which is wized-cloak-custom. So to target an attribute with CSS, we have to write square brackets, and inside here, we're going to write wized-cloak-custom. And this is going to be our initial CSS styling. Now, this attribute of wized-cloak-custom will get removed from our element as soon as the request has finished loading. In this case, it's the post link request. So when the request finishes executing, this attribute will get removed and we'll have our transition in place. So let's have a look at that. We're going to save the changes. Then we're going to publish the project. and we're going to have a look at our live site. Now, if a user types in a URL and we shorten the link, we can see we get this really nice fade-in animation. Now, you can use this same technique also for page load animations. For example, let's have a look at our classified ads clonable. Here we have a loader, which contains just an element with shimmer loaders, and then down here we have our template element. And what we're doing is we are initially hiding this wrapper with our elements, and we're waiting for the load ads and load user requests. When these requests are completed, we use wized to hide this loader element, and we display this element over here. So let's see that in action. We have the loader. When the request finishes, our elements appear. And that's how you use the wized-cloak attribute. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!